All right, I'm testing out a new contraption, a new method of running hard drives on the Megatouch Forces, not the Ions, because most of the Ion motherboards have connections for SATA connections, so you could use like a traditional SATA hard drive connection. But what I'm doing here is I'm working with the Forces. The Forces all used the old school IDE connections. The Force motherboards do not have SATA connectors on them. It's all IDE. So I'll show you one method. One method that got pretty popular is using SATA hard drive, SATA solid state or SATA hard drive with a SATA to IDE conversion kit. And it's this board here. So basically one of these. So you've got your SATA hookup, you get your SATA hard drive. Let me get a light on here for you. So you would take a SATA drive. Golly, I need a place to set this. You would take your SATA drive and then your SATA conversion, and that clicks on there, and then you plug in your power, and your IDE connection. So just like how it is there, power and IDE. IDE cable goes down and into the motherboard, and there you go. Now you're running a SATA drive with a SATA to IDE converter. Now, here is something that I came up with, and I haven't done it yet. I'm actually about to do it to see if it'll work. For these old Forces, the SATA conversion method it's okay. What I don't like about them is the way that the components sometimes will shake loose, because a lot of these SATA conversion, SATA to IDE conversion boards, sometimes the connectors just aren't amazing. And if you move the game, or if you were to put it in a box and ship it or whatever, it may knock loose. Now, one thing you could do is use some silicone put it on the cracks here. Like, you could dab silicone on the on the sides, on the edges, like a dab there and a dab there, and maybe the silicone would hold it in place pretty well. It's just the brackets are kind of janky when you start using a SATA drive for this, or SATA solid state. It's kind of janky. Like this one right here, it's just kind of hanging out in this box area here. Now there is a way you can make a modified drive holder. Like I had one that was 3D printed by somebody else. Somebody else had 3D printed a drive holder. It worked, but I still just don't like the way the SATA drives hook up to these conversion chips. Anyways, that's too long-winded. Here's something I thought about. So a traditional IDE plug, one of the reasons why I sort of like it still for these games, for the old Forces, not the Ions, is the connectors, right? So typically, let me see if I can find one here. You would use a drive like this, and there's your IDE connectors. Now, this is not a standard IDE connection. This is, so this is a 2.5 inch adapter, because you're gonna take, so drives like these were pretty popular. Megatouch used a lot of drives like these during their time before they got to the SATA drives. So you would hook this is a 2.5 inch IDE connection, but a standard IDE cable right, is a little bit bigger. So what you have to do is you have to use this adapter. Now this is a 2.5 inch IDE adapter. So basically you take the adapter, stick it on here, and then you've got your power cable here, and then your IDE cable goes onto here. Now, the reason why I sort of like this idea is because this connection gets real solid. When you put that IDE cable on here, it is solid. Like it goes on nice and tight and solid. Like this connection here, tight, solid. Cable goes on very, very solid. So I like the actual connection when I'm dealing with the old forces, because there's no way to hook SATA in the first place, to hook a SATA drive in the first place. I mean, you're using a conversion anyways. So why not use an IDE connector on a, this is called, I found this out, right? This is an mSATA SSD docking, what would you call this? It's almost like a dock, where you can buy an mSATA. So this is essentially a hard drive, but it's just in the form of mSATA. So an mSATA chip, right? You get this. This one's 64 gigs. You take this, and you're going to dock it in here, right? It hooks in there, it docks in there, and now essentially this is your hard drive. So now technically you have just created a solid state drive. So now you have created a solid state drive that uses straight up IDE connections, which then goes here into your IDE cable, right? And there you go. Now you have a straight up mSATA dock with a straight up IDE connection the whole way. So that removes the need for a SATA conversion board here, with your power and your IDE cable. So I'm going to test it out, because in theory it should work. In theory, I'm gonna test it out because that light's pretty bright. I'm gonna test it out because I really like the idea of it. And it allows you to use the mSATA chips, and it makes it easier to kind of swap out drives. Like if this chip went bad or you wanted to replace it with a different software year chip with a different software year, you just go over to this dock and just, you just pop it out. You just unlatch it and get that thing out and put it in. Now, it's not hard to swap either, but whatever. I don't know. I just came up with the idea. I'm going to try it out because I thought it would be cool. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's kind of quirky. Like, I don't know. There's really not going to be any performance benefits or anything like that. Just because there's only so much performance you can squeeze out of this old school software and whatnot, and the other components that are in these games. I just think it's cool. I just think it's cool to have a, especially this dock that I got here. This is a very high rated dock. This has great ratings in terms of like longevity and performance. So this should remove any issues you may have with a SATA conversion board. Yeah. So yeah, that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get my mSATA docked in here, hook up my IDE cable, hook up my power, and then I will just run an install. I'm going to run an install with my discs and my DVD drives into this game, and it will now be technically running on mSATA. and I'm going to see how it works. I'm going to see how it works, and I'm going to see how solid the connections feel. And if I like it, I'm going to run with it. And that's pretty much it. If I don't like it, maybe I'll just stick with regular SATA. Yeah, but it's just a cool little thing I came up with, and we'll see how it goes.